Worf has the answer to a big Star Trek Section 31 problem. For decades, Star Trek has grappled with the existence of Section 31, the Federation's secret intelligence and Black Ops division that operates outside Starfleet's ideals. Conceived as a dark mirror to Starfleet's utopian vision, Section 31 has become both a fascinating and troubling part of Star Trek canon. While fans are intrigued by its moral complexity, it has also caused a long-running problem. How can the Federation remain an idealistic force for good when such an organization exists within it? As the franchise continues to explore the darker corners of the Star Trek universe, especially in Discovery and the upcoming Section 31 movie starring Michelle Yeoh, that question looms larger than ever. Yet one character from the franchise's proud past may hold the key to solving this paradox: Lieutenant Commander Worf. The former Klingon warrior, who became one of Starfleet's most disciplined and morally grounded officers, represents the very antithesis of Section 31's shadowy philosophy. His story, particularly in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine and Star Trek, Picard, provides a blueprint for how Star Trek can reconcile the ideals of honor and pragmatism and finally redeem the Federation's soul from the corruption Section 31 represents. The Federation's ethical crisis. Section 31 has always been a problem of philosophical consistency. In a universe where the Federation prides itself on transparency, diplomacy, and moral integrity, the existence of an unaccountable organization that commits espionage, assassinations, and genetic experiments undermines everything Starfleet stands for. When Section 31 was introduced in Deep Space Nine's Inquisition, the reveal was shocking. The idea that the Federation's bright utopia had a dark underside was a compelling twist, a way to challenge the audience's idealism. Yet, as more series leaned into that darkness, especially Star Trek, Into Darkness and Discovery, Section 31's presence began to feel less like a moral warning and more like an accepted reality. That shift created a dilemma. If Section 31's ruthless pragmatism is essential to the Federation's survival, then Starfleet's moral ideals are hollow. If it's not essential, then its continued existence makes the Federation complicit in hypocrisy. It's a moral paradox that even great captains like Picard and Sisko struggled to resolve. Enter Worf. Worf's code of honor. Worf has always been defined by his internal conflict between two worlds: the savage, honor-bound traditions of his Klingon heritage and the rational, ethical principles of Starfleet. Unlike Section 31 agents, who justify their actions with utilitarian logic, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Worf's morality is deeply personal and spiritual. In The Next Generation, Worf often appeared rigid or even naive in his adherence to Klingon honor codes, especially when others saw them as outdated or impractical. But that rigidity was actually his greatest strength. Worf believes that integrity is not situational, it's absolute. When he violates his principles, as he does in Rightful Heir or Redemption, he doesn't hide behind excuses. He faces the consequences. This worldview directly challenges Section 31's operating philosophy. To Worf, the idea of committing dishonorable acts for the greater good is not strength, it's weakness. It's the coward's way of avoiding moral responsibility. His personal journey shows that even in a galaxy filled with threats, there is always a way to act with both courage and conscience. How Worf already faced the Section 31 problem. Interestingly, Deep Space Nine already positioned Worf in direct opposition to the kind of moral compromise that Section 31 embodies. His interactions with Captain Sisko in the Dominion War tested his beliefs in extreme situations. When the Federation was on the brink of destruction, Section 31 saw it as justification for any action, including infecting the Founders with a deadly virus. Worf, on the other hand, never wavered from the belief that victory must mean something more than survival. In Tacking Into the Wind, he executes Chancellor Gowron to save the Klingon Empire, but he does so openly, accepting the personal and political cost. He kills not for secrecy or self-interest, but for the preservation of honor and the truth. This single act, taking responsibility for a difficult moral choice, contrasts perfectly with Section 31's modus operandi. They hide in shadows, refusing to be accountable. Worf's code demands accountability above all. That's why he could offer the solution the Federation desperately needs: transparency and moral courage. Even in the face of danger, Worf's post-DS9 evolution shows the path forward. When Star Trek Picard brought Worf back in Season 3. He had evolved into a fascinating hybrid of Klingon warrior and Federation peacekeeper. He was still formidable in battle, but he also embraced meditation, restraint, and self-discipline, traits learned from his years balancing two cultures. His calm humor, wisdom, and refusal to engage in unnecessary violence marked the culmination of his lifelong quest for harmony. Most importantly, this version of Worf rejects vengeance and secrecy. He fights for justice, not ideology. He explicitly refuses to become the kind of man who hides behind necessary evils. Imagine this Worf leading the Federation's moral reckoning with Section 31, not as a politician or spy hunter, but as an ambassador of honor, someone who could remind Starfleet what it means to hold the line, even when the galaxy tempts it to compromise. In Picard, he even shows how diplomacy and morality can coexist with strength. His partnership with Raffi Musiker as an intelligence operative was conducted without cruelty or lies. He infiltrated the criminal underworld but never surrendered to its ethics. That's exactly the balance the Federation needs to reclaim. The honor alternative to Section 31. Worf's philosophy could provide a radical alternative to the logic behind Section 31. Instead of secrecy and moral compromise, he could advocate for a new branch of Starfleet intelligence, one guided by honor and accountability. A structure where intelligence gathering and defense are done transparently, under ethical oversight, rather than through rogue actions. This House of Honor model would embrace the notion that trust is a weapon more powerful than fear. Worf could train operatives to be warriors of conscience, bound by oaths to the Federation's ideals rather than its survival instincts. It might sound idealistic, but Star Trek thrives on idealism. The franchise was never meant to tell us that survival justifies anything. It was meant to inspire us to imagine a civilization that thrives without losing its soul. Worf, as both a warrior and a philosopher, is uniquely suited to bring that vision to life. His message would be simple but revolutionary. We cannot protect the Federation by becoming what we fear. Honor is not a weakness. It is our greatest strength. Worf vs. Georgiou Section 31. The upcoming Section 31 movie starring Michelle Yeoh's Emperor Philippa Georgiou will likely tackle the organization's moral contradictions head-on. Georgiou's arc, from ruthless Terran ruler to reluctant Federation agent, mirrors Section 31's own struggle for redemption. Yet she's still a character who operates from the shadows, using manipulation as her weapon. That's where Worf's perspective could come in as a counterpoint. A crossover between Georgiou and Worf could be the moral debate Star Trek has always needed. The pragmatist versus the idealist, the survivor versus the honorable warrior, where Georgiou might argue that the Federation needs people willing to do terrible things for the greater good. Worf would answer that true courage lies in refusing to surrender one's principles, no matter the cost. Their clash wouldn't just be philosophical, it would be Star Trek at its most profound, asking whether can reclaim its